In today's video, Who Bears the Brunt of a Warming Planet? We'll delve into the multifaceted impact of climate change and highlight the groups that are suffering the most. From low-income communities and women to small island nations and indigenous peoples, we'll examine how various demographics face overlapping challenges that intensify with a warming world. As we navigate through the realities of vulnerable populations, including children and agricultural workers, we'll also shine a light on the risks to wildlife and biodiversity, and the mounting pressures on developing countries. Join us as we explore these urgent issues, shedding light on those who bear the heaviest burdens in the climate crisis. 1. Low-income communities are most affected. Low-income communities around the world are increasingly feeling the heat of climate change, both literally and figuratively. These regions often lack the financial resources and infrastructure necessary to adapt to the rapidly changing climate. Without proper funding, they cannot build defenses against extreme weather events such as hurricanes, floods, or droughts. This leaves them vulnerable to the whims of nature. For instance, when a storm strikes, wealthier areas might have the means to rebuild, but poorer areas can be left devastated with little hope of recovery. The lack of resources also means that these communities struggle to invest in renewable energy or sustainable practices, which could mitigate some of the effects of climate change. This cycle of vulnerability perpetuates poverty, making it even harder for these communities to climb out of their economic struggles. 2. Women are disproportionately impacted. In many developing countries, women bear the brunt of climate change's impacts disproportionately. They are often the primary caregivers and are responsible for gathering food, water, and fuel. As climate change exacerbates food insecurity and water scarcity, women find their daily tasks becoming increasingly difficult. This not only affects their health and well-being but also limits their opportunities for education and employment, perpetuating cycles of poverty and inequality. In regions where agriculture is the main livelihood, women often work on family farms. Changes in rainfall patterns and prolonged droughts can lead to crop failures, directly affecting their income and food supply. Additionally, in times of displacement due to climate disasters, women face heightened risks of violence and exploitation. This complex web of challenges underscores the urgent need for gender-sensitive climate policies that address these unique vulnerabilities. 3. Small island nations are on the front lines. For small island nations such as the Maldives and Kiribati, climate change is not a distant threat but an immediate reality. Rising sea levels pose an existential threat, with the potential to submerge entire islands and erase them from the map. This isn't just a loss of land, it's a loss of culture, history, and identity. The rising waters lead to land erosion, making agriculture and housing unstable. Freshwater resources, already scarce, become contaminated with saltwater, making it difficult for residents to access clean drinking water. Additionally, the increased frequency and intensity of storms put further strain on these vulnerable nations. Many small island nations are advocating for urgent global action, but their voices are often overshadowed by larger, more influential countries. The plight of these nations serves as a stark reminder of the disproportionate impacts of climate change on those who contribute the least to the problem. 4. Indigenous peoples face displacement. Indigenous communities, with their deep connection and reliance on the natural world, are acutely affected by the impacts of climate change. Many of these communities live in areas that are particularly susceptible to environmental changes, such as forests, mountains, and coastal regions. As the climate shifts, these ecosystems are disrupted, threatening the traditional ways of life for indigenous peoples. For instance, changing migration patterns of animals or the alteration of plant growth cycles can severely impact hunting and gathering practices, which are vital for sustenance. Moreover, extreme weather events can lead to displacement, forcing communities to leave ancestral lands. This displacement not only disrupts their livelihoods but also severs cultural ties and knowledge passed down through generations. Recognizing and respecting the rights and knowledge of indigenous peoples is crucial in developing effective climate adaptation strategies. 5. Children are particularly vulnerable. Children are among the most vulnerable to the impacts of a warming planet. Their developing bodies are more susceptible to the health risks posed by climate change, such as malnutrition, respiratory diseases, and heat-related illnesses. As food production becomes more unpredictable, children face the threat of malnutrition, which can have long-term effects on their growth and cognitive development. In regions prone to extreme heat, children are at a higher risk of heat stroke and dehydration. Furthermore, as families are displaced by climate-related disasters, children's education and stability are disrupted, affecting their future prospects. The mental health of children is also at risk, as they experience the anxiety and stress of living in a world facing such profound changes. Safeguarding the future of our planet means prioritizing the health and well-being of the youngest among us. 6. Farmers and agricultural workers struggle. Farmers and agricultural workers are on the front lines of climate change, grappling with its immediate effects on their livelihoods. Unpredictable weather patterns, such as extended droughts or unseasonal rains, disrupt growing seasons and reduce crop yields. This instability makes it challenging for farmers to plan and invest in future harvests, threatening food security for entire regions. Water scarcity, driven by changing precipitation patterns and increased evaporation rates, further exacerbates the situation. In some areas, traditional farming methods are no longer viable, forcing farmers to adapt or abandon their land. The financial strain on these communities is immense, as they face the dual pressures of diminishing income and rising costs of adaptation measures. Supporting sustainable farming practices and providing resources for adaptation is crucial to ensure the survival of agricultural communities. 7. Urban poor in heat-prone cities suffer. In densely populated urban areas, the urban poor are disproportionately affected by the heat. Cities often become heat islands, where concrete and asphalt absorb and retain heat, leading to significantly higher temperatures than surrounding areas. This phenomenon is exacerbated in poorly planned cities with limited green spaces and inadequate infrastructure. For those living in low-income housing, the lack of proper insulation and cooling systems makes it nearly impossible to escape the sweltering heat. This can lead to severe health issues, particularly for the elderly and young children. Additionally, the urban poor often lack access to healthcare and other essential services, making it difficult to cope with the health impacts of extreme heat. Addressing urban planning and improving infrastructure in these areas is essential to protect vulnerable populations from the harsh realities of climate change. 8. Wildlife and biodiversity are at risk. The natural world is undergoing profound changes as a result of climate change, with wildlife and biodiversity hanging in the balance. Many species face extinction as they struggle to adapt to rapidly shifting climates. For example, polar bears are losing their icy habitats, while coral reefs, home to countless marine species, are bleaching and dying due to rising ocean temperatures. These changes disrupt ecosystems, leading to a cascade of effects on other species, including humans who rely on these ecosystems for food, medicine, and livelihoods. The loss of biodiversity also weakens the resilience of ecosystems, making them more vulnerable to further environmental changes. Protecting and restoring natural habitats is critical to preserving the rich tapestry of life on Earth and ensuring the health of our planet for future generations. 9. Coastal communities are threatened. Coastal communities worldwide face an uncertain future as rising sea levels and stronger storms threaten their homes and livelihoods. Many of these communities rely on fishing, tourism, and agriculture, all of which are at risk from the encroaching seas. Coastal erosion, saltwater intrusion, and flooding are becoming increasingly common, forcing residents to adapt or relocate. The economic impact of these changes can be devastating, particularly for communities with limited resources. In delta regions, where rivers meet the sea, the situation is particularly dire, as these areas are prone to both sea level rise and upstream changes in water flow. The cultural and historical significance of coastal communities adds another layer of complexity to the challenges they face. Developing comprehensive coastal management plans and investing in resilient infrastructure are vital steps in safeguarding these communities from the impacts of climate change. 10. Developing countries bear the largest burden. Developing countries find themselves bearing the largest burden of climate change, despite contributing the least to global emissions. These nations often lack the economic and technological capacity to adapt to the rapid environmental changes they face. Geographic vulnerabilities, such as proximity to the equator or low-lying topography, further exacerbate their challenges. The economic strain of addressing climate impacts diverts resources from essential services such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure development. As a result, progress towards poverty alleviation and development goals is hindered, trapping these countries in a cycle of vulnerability. International cooperation and support are crucial in providing the necessary resources and technology to help developing nations build resilience and adapt to the changing climate. Addressing the inequities of climate change is not only a matter of justice but also essential for global stability and prosperity.